Okay, Fitbit, we need to talk. I'm trying to get healthy here. I pulled you out of my junk drawer, dusted you off like an old VHS tape, because my doctor said I need to be more active. You know, I looked at my activity log. Honestly, she might be onto something. However, I do not want to look at the activities on my phone. So I fired up the old web dashboard to check out my stats, and boom, betrayal. Fitbit, you had a beautiful web dashboard, charts, sleep logs, my glorious inconsistent step counts. Why did you act like Thanos and snapped it into the void? Just why? Because mobile apps are trendy? Because web dashboards are for grandpas? Well, guess what? I am a grandpa, and I want my steps on a screen bigger than my thumb because I refuse to wear glasses. So today, I'm starting a series to build my own fitness web app to pull in Fitbit data. And maybe, just maybe, I'll add other devices, new features, a dark mode. Who knows? Stick around and find out. But I do have a doctor's warning. Side effects may include mild rage at Fitbit's API rate limits. Viewer discretion is advised. Okay, so what we're going to end up doing today is we are going to start building out our web application for our Fitbit and other health devices. So the first thing we'll end up doing is we'll register our application and then we'll connect it with Python and FastAPI. So how do we do that? Well, we go up here to dev.fitbit.com/apps. And you can see I already have an application I registered, but to register a new app, you just click here to register a new app. And then you put in your application name, so we'll just go blah, blah, blah. And then description, we can just do, more blah and more blah. And the application URL, we don't have one yet, so we can just put in the local host, organization, blah 2000. Organization web URL, again, just put in localhost. Terms of service URL, localhost. Privacy, localhost. And you can go back and change these, right? But this should just kind of get us started. And then down here where it says the authorization, right? You can put personal, client, or server. If you're doing it for personal, just put personal. If you're going to do it for other people, you can put server up there. And then the redirect URL. Now this is important. So we're going to do localhost, and then we're going to do /, and then we're going to do callback. Because we need a callback URL to make this work. And then down here we have either read only, or read and write. Read only is fine. We don't need to write back to the Fitbit. And then right here, I have agreed to the terms of service. Hit register. And we have this right here, applications I registered, and we have all this information right here. Alright, so from here, we're going to copy these variables down here. And the way we're going to end up doing that is we're going to go to our folder where our application is going to live at. And we'll open this up, and then we're going to go new, and then we'll go down to text document. And this is going to be a .env, and hit yes to change that. And this is kind of small, so we'll just kind of blow this up a little bit. And I'll open that up. Open up a notebook just once. And then we'll go over here, and this is the format that we're going to use here. We're going to need to copy our Fitbit client ID. We're going to need to do our Fitbit client secret. And I already have the redirect localhost, and notice we have that callback in here. So what we'll end up doing is we'll go down here, we'll copy the client ID, and we'll throw that in the notebook. And then we'll copy the client secret, and we'll put this in the notebook. And this is just test, so obviously I'm gonna blow this away later and change my client ID and my client secret, just for security purposes. But for demonstration, this is fine. So we're just going to put that in there, and we're going to hit save, and then we're going to exit that out. And then we're done in here. We don't really need to do anything else. So we'll just go up here and we can exit out of this right now. And we'll go back to our folder and we'll hit CMD command and hit enter. And what that does is that prompts you up to your command prompt, and then we'll be able to enter data here. Alright, so I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you can see it. That should be good. And what I need to do is I need to install Python virtual environment, just because I like to put all my applications in a virtual environment. So I have my path to my Python, and I'm going to type in Python -m, and then I'm going to do venv and venv, and then I'm going to run that, and that's going to create my virtual environment for this application. Now that I'm here, I just do venv / scripts / activate, and hit enter. And now I'm in my venv, so I know I'm in my isolated environment to start programming. Alright, so since I'm dealing with FastAPI, I'm going to go pip install FastAPI just to make sure that I have that package. Hit enter. And then we'll go through and we'll get that installed. And as you see here, there's a new release of pip. I'll just go ahead and upgrade that like really quick. You just run this command, python.m pip install upgrade pip. And then we'll go ahead and look at our next package. So I know that I'm going to use Jenga. So I'm going to do pip install Jenga 2. And this will allow me to build out the web pages with HTML. And I cannot find a version that satisfies that requirement. Okay, so it's case sensitive, so we got to do install Jenga 2. I forgot to capitalize the J. Alright, I need to learn how to spell, so install, let's see, Jenga 2. There we go. Got it right this time. Alright, and then we're going to do the pip install request. And then we should be good to go. Okay, so here we are at Visual Studio Code. I already have my Health API already loaded. If you don't know how to load it, just go to File, Open Folder, and then you can go down to your Health API or whatever you name your application and just select that folder. Now, as you can tell, I already have my env installed up here, so we don't need to look at that. I'm just letting you know that we are in that folder, and we have that virtual environment that we already built out. So what we like to do is go to terminal, get new terminal, and that way we have the stuff down here. Now I notice I don't see my virtual environment activated, so what I want to do is I want to go to that venv scripts / activate, and then now it's activated like right there with the venv. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to end up doing, just go up here and hit new file, and then we'll just name this Main.py. And now we have that Main.py file created, and we can start typing our code up here. Alright, now that we're here, we can hit Control++, and this is optional. I'm just doing this just for you guys can see the font size better. And we'll take this and we'll minimize this a little bit. And then let me do one more, I think. Okay. And then right down here, you can see where I activated my script right here earlier. So you can read a lot better. Now I'm going to move this down here because I don't really need to see it. I want to have more real estate up here. So we'll go ahead and we'll start importing the packages. Alright, so we'll go with from, and we'll do the FastAPI, and then we'll have to import fast, if I can spell today. Let's see, fast API, and then we're going to do request, and this way we'll get those basic FastAPI packages out of the way. And then the next thing we want to do is from fast API responses, and what we want to do is we want to import the redirect response. And this way, if we have something in there that we need to do a redirect on, basically for the callback, we'll be able to sit there and do that with the redirect response. And then we're just going to do the HTML response. We're not going to use this right now, but it's going to be in there because we will use that later. And then we want to do fast API templating, and then we want to import Ginger 2 templates. And what this is going to allow us to do is we're going to be able to we'll be able to use that for templating our web page, similar to Flask, because Flask uses Ginger 2 templates natively. We're just importing it here in a fast API for we can actually do the HTML templating up there. And as you noticed earlier, I didn't put the from up there, but now this is correct. So we'll just go ahead and hit enter here, and then we're going to do the import, and then we're going to do request, and then we're going to do the OS, and then we got to deal with the web pages. So we're going to do the URLLIB. We're going to need to parse those. And then we need to deal with the encoding, so we're going to import the base64, right? Now, if you don't know what some of this stuff is, that's okay. You can actually highlight over this, and it would tell you information about it. So that's one thing nice about this. Now, like over here, we have the OS, and it gives information over here. We have information there, and then we have the base64 up here. Alright, so now that we're here, we're just going to hit enter a few times to go down, and we are going to make our app, and we're going to call fast API to get us started. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is, now that we have our app declared, we need our client ID. Client ID equals, and if you remember, we have the env file, and this is right here where we're at. We got the Fitbit client ID is this, Fitbit client secrets over here. So what do we want to call, right? We don't want to call this. Okay, we don't want to call these. We want to call this up here, like the Fitbit client ID. So I'm just going to copy that. And then over here, I want to say OS dot, and then I want to get the env. And then I'm just going to put that Fitbit client ID right there. Well, the next thing we want to do is we need that client secret, secret equals, same thing, os dot get environment, and we'll just go ahead and prep that really quick, and then we'll go back over here to our env file, and we'll just grab this right here, copy that secret, and we'll put that right there over there. Now, what do we want to do next? Well, we need the redirect URL. Redirect URL. Okay, if I can spell today. Redirect underscore URI equals, and then this right here, like, we don't have to, you know, call this. This is pretty thing, so we can actually take this callback right here for this one, and we can just throw that in there. Now we could have done the os.get env here, but this is nothing here that I'm too worried about. So I'm just going to put this out there just like that. So let me know what you guys do. If you just use the get env for your redirect, or you just put it out here. Either way is fine. Either way is going to work. All right. So the next thing we're going to end up doing is we're going to have to deal with the login. So what we want to do is we want to do the @app.get, and we will put that in there. And then we're going to deal with the login information. Alright, and then after we deal with the login, we're going to need to pass some parameters. So we're going to do PARAMS, and then we're going to have a little dictionary. And what we're going to want to do is we want to do the response type. And then we are going to do code. And then comma. And then we're going to do our next one. And you're like, well, wait a minute. How did I get here? Well, that's a good question. What does all this mean? Alright, so let's jump back over to the website. And we're here back at our application you registered. And over here you have these read API docs. Alright, so let's click on that. And since we're building a web API, we need to go to web API down here. And then we're dealing with the authorization right now. So let's click on authorization. And we go down here and we're trying to authorize. So let's click on authorize. And this is the request that we're going to call later on. And then down here are the parameters that we have. So right down here we notice that I got the response type. And I can have code or token. And I chose to use code. Down here we have scope, redirect URI. And you can go down here. These are optional down here for the expires and the prompt. States recommended, but we can go down here and just read through this doc and see what kind of parameters we can pass. And you know, and this is kind of obviously the ones that are required. You have to pass those. Scope. What I want to show you on scope is we click scope, and then these are the available scopes that we can pass on. So like if I wanted to see activity, I can pass in activity. You know, if I want to see heart rate, pass in heart rate. If I want to see sleep, you know, pass in sleep, and so forth. But that's pretty much where I'm getting this information from. And again, I'll have these links spelled out in the description below. So let's get back to programming. And then we're over here, so the response type code. And you notice that I had the client ID in there that was required. So I'm going to have to throw in my client ID here, and I am going to pass in my client ID, and then throw in my comma, and then we need the redirect URL, so redirect underscore URI, And then we just do the redirect URI. And then, let's see, you said we needed to pass in our scope. Okay. And for the scope, since I'm on the basic, because I'm not paying for any of the Fitbit features, I can get activity. I can get the heart rate. And obviously I get my profile and I get my sleep. And I think that's all I can get off the free tier. And notice the scope, I don't have any commas here, and that's correct. And we'll just go ahead and finish this off. And then I'm going to bring up my bracket here just because I like that better. Now, what we want to end up doing is we got to go with the URL equals. And remember what I said was back up here, we'll go hit the back button here. Up here where we have the request right there, we need that, so we're going to copy that. And we are going to go back here and paste that in. And we're going to put a question mark behind that. And then I'm going to add. And what am I going to add? I'm going to add the urllib.parse, because we're going to parse in URL encode. But what are we going to encode? Well, we are going to encode our parameters. So that's PARAMS. And now that we have that, and then we'll, passing that in. Now we're done with that, so we're going to return it. And I'm going to redirect my response to the URL, which is basically right here for the login. So if I'm not logged in, it's going to redirect it to the regular login. Alright, so next thing we want to do is probably let's handle our callback. Alright, so let's do our callback. Let's go with, app.get, and we'll do our callback. Alright, so we have our callback, and we'll just go hit enter to go down one line, and we're going to create our callback function. So with our callback function, let's see, callback, and we're going to have to pass the code. We're going to pass that as a string, and we're going to put that in there. Alright, so now we're going to do with the token URL equals. Alright, so where do we go from here? Well, from here we're going to go and we'll look at the Swagger documentation. So let's open this up, and we'll go down here. Since we're doing a callback for the authorization, we'll go down here and look at this. This is OAuth2/token, and that's what we want. So we'll click on that, and this lets you know we retrieved the token. And then down here, like, we have client IDs required, grant types required, so we can actually look through this documentation to see what's required on there. And this is pretty much it. So we can go back and do that. These are going to be the parameters, and this is going to be what we're calling this OAuth2/token. So let's get back to coding. And if we go back to the coding, we have the URL. Now, what we want to do with that URL is I'm just going to paste that in there. And if you notice this api.fitbit.com and then this OAuth2 token, and again, we go back up here, that's slash OAuth2 token. And you're like, well, wait a minute, how did we get that API part of it? Well, if we go up here and look at it, the base URL is api.fitbit.com. So that's where that's coming from. So now that we have that in there, we can continue coding, because now we know that we need to pass headers. And then we're going to put in our headers in here, and this is going to be our authorization. And we're just going to do, let's see, we're going to do the basic, if I can type today, basic, just regular basic authentication. And you can go back and read the docs to get this information in there. And then I'm going to do get basic authorization token. Okay, and then we'll just sit there and put that in there as we go, and we'll have to finish this off with our comma, and then basically get underscore basic underscore authorization token. Okay, so basically this, like F is like just formatting, so this would be basic, and then it will call this and put that in there. So the next thing we're going to have to do is we'll go down to the next line, and we are going to do content type. So we'll do content, and then we're going to do type, and then I like to put my spaces there. We'll do application x www.form.url encoding. And then right there, we'll go ahead and hit enter. And let's see, we need to pass our parameters. And this is where I showed you the parameters in the Swagger earlier. So that's going to be the client ID we're passing, because that was required. And we'll just pass the client ID. And then we're going to do the same thing for grant type. And then let's see, what do we want to do here? The authorization code. Authorization code. And then we're going to do a redirect underscore URI. And then this is going to be our redirect. So redirect underscore URI. And then we'll just do the comma. And then we'll pass in the code. And just put in code, comma. And there we are. Now we got the data. And again, that's going to be in your, down here in your Swagger. You can go down here to our authorization, and that's where I'm getting that information from, is down here. Okay? So, what do we got next? Well, we'll have to do a response. And then how do we get a response? Well, we have to request it from the post. And then we want to pass in the token URL. and we want to go headers equals headers because we want that header information. And then our parameters, we're just going to do data equals data for our parameters. And then what we want to do is we want our tokens equals response.json. Tokens equals response.json. And that's because we want our response to be in JSON format, right? So now what we can do is we can just simply return user tokens. And let's see, user tokens, I'm sorry, I just named it tokens. So we'll just return tokens up there. Alright, so looking at this, we still have this little squiggly underline for the get basic authorization token. And we've got to do that. So let's go down here and we'll make another function. And we'll call it get basic authorization token. And we'll just put that in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to return base 64. Base 64. And then we're going to do the base 64 encode. Format, and then let's go with client ID. Let's client ID, and we are going to pass the client secret. Client secret, and then obviously we have to encode it. And then finally we will decode. And that should give us a working application for the authentication piece. So actually I gotta put a T in client because typing is hard today. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So let's give this thing a test. Alright, so one thing we didn't do is if I bring this up, if we can see the terminal, we need to do a pip install, and we didn't install Uvicorn. I always want to say unicorn, but it's like Uvicorn. However you pronounce it, Uvicorn, I guess. So we're going to pip install Uvicorn. And then we can just install through the, I can't talk today. We'll just install it through the Visual Studio's terminal. We don't have to go back into the command prompt. We can just do it here. Just an example in case you ever forget. So now that that's installed, we want to do Uvicorn. I misspell that all the time. And what do we want to do with that? Well, we want to go with go into our main, which is our main Python right here. Then what we're going to end up doing is going to our app, which is right here, and we'll do main app, and we will just do -- reload and hit enter. And it says that that's not right. So did I misspell? Yeah, I did. See, I always misspell that. So it's UVICON, main app reload. So we're going to run this now that we got it right. And then it says app not found in main. Oh, you know why? Because see how we have that little right dot up there? We didn't save it, so we're going to hit Control S and we're going to save it. And now that it's saved, it says cannot import name Jingo 2 templates from, and we cannot import Jingo 2 templates. Well, we're not really using that right now, so I'm just going to comment that out and go back to it later. And then we're just going to hit Control Save. And there we are. Now everything's up and running. All right, so remember when we did the unicorn and or Uvicorn, and we had that dash reloading? So it reloaded that after I comment my templating out. So if we just go back up here to the top, we'll actually have that Uvicorn running right here. And I just hit Control and I can click on that to get the link. And then what that brings up, it brings up my application. So we can see that this is like, Fitbit.com. I have my Fitbit, and then blah, blah, blah is what we kind of did the app, and that's the description by blah 2000. Would like the ability to access the following data in your account. And this is coming from when we set up the application in Fitbit itself to start development. It just pulls from those data fields. So yours will say whatever you put in those comments. And down here, this app is not using HTTPS. That's true because we only put in our callback as HTTP. Not a big deal because we're just running this locally. If I was gonna, run it out on the web, obviously I would make it HTTPS. And down here, I got my sleep, my profile, my heart rate, my activities and exercise. So if you remember inside the code when we did scope, these are the ones that I scoped out. So I can hit allow all, or I can just select the ones I want. In my case, I'm just going to hit allow all. And I hit allow. And then once I hit allow, there it is. There's my access token, because that's the only thing I'm returning right now. Tells me when it expires, tells me when my refresh token, and then again it has my scope up here. So all that is pretty much done, and it doesn't get any easier than that. Now I know that's small, it really wasn't intended to be read, it's just kind of showing you that it is reaching that. So let's change this up a little bit. I'm going to exit out of that. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to hit Control C just to let the application shut down. And I'm going to bring this back down before I can go back to my coding section up here. And we're going to handle that token a little bit differently. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to go up here underneath my app. And I am going to do my user tokens and just make a blank one, put that in a dictionary, because if you looked at what it brought back, it was in a dictionary format. So I'm just going to go user tokens and then just make a blank dictionary out of that. So the next thing I want to do is we'll go back down here to our callback. And here's where the tokens are. And this time we will use user tokens. Okay. And then what do we want to bring back? Well, first of all, we only want to bring back one thing. So we're going to bring back the access token. Access token. So we want to bring back the access underscore token. Okay. And then that's going to equal tokens, access token. There we go. Just like that. And then what we want to do is let's bring back the user tokens. And then I'm just going to bring back the user ID. So we'll just do user ID equals tokens. And then that will be again the user ID, user token, user ID equals, okay, so down here I can bring back user tokens. Now when I do that, it's just going to bring back the access token and the user ID token. It's not going to bring back the entire token, so it's only going to bring back the access and the user ID. Now if I wanted to, I could just say I only want to bring back the user ID, so I can just do user ID like this, and that'd bring back my user ID. Now I know that this is kind of like redundant, but I'm just kind of showing you this just to kind of give you a sense how that works. Alright, so let's rerun this. Alright, so to rerun this, we'll go ahead and put the Uvicorn back in there, and we'll do app, we'll do main app -- reload, and then we start it up. So the application's complete, and I hit that, and it brings back, voila, just my ID right there, just how we wanted it. Now, with that said, I think this is a good place to stop. And the next video, we are going to go in and we're going to look at bringing some of the actual fitness data back from the app. So I'll join you guys next time. So I'll talk to you guys later.